Is there hope for Iraq?
No, absolutely not.
Welcome to 10 with Palm, a series created to dialogue for 10 minutes with community leaders and those of influence throughout Arizona. My name is Dan Palm, and our guest today is Morgan Lerette. Morgan and I grew up in northern Arizona and went to middle school in the Verde Valley. After graduating from high school, Morgan joined the private security firm BLACKWATER, and just a short time after the U.S. invasion of Iraq, Morgan arrived in Baghdad and served 18 months as a BLACKWATER security contractor. He returned to Iraq again in 2009 as a member of the U.S. Army. He chronicles the chaotic early days of the Iraq War and his experience in the book, Welcome to BLACKWATER: Mercenaries, Money, and Mayhem in Iraq. Why did you write this book?
Well, I got tired of hearing one side of the political spectrum talk about how all BLACKWATER were war criminals and we should all be tried and thrown in prison. And then on the other side, you had people like Eric Prince, who started BLACKWATER, talking about how we're all amazing patriots and we should have ticker tape parades thrown in our honor. And the truth is that the story happened on the ground, and nobody had talked about the actual people and what we did on a day-to-day basis. I was on Team 12, and we got picked up by the Regime Crimes Liaison Office, which was all the people that were collecting evidence for the trials of Saddam Hussein, Chemical Ali, everybody in that deck of cards that you saw that was like the top 52. So we went up to Kurdistan, which for those of you who don't know, just north of Kirkuk is Kurdistan. It's autonomous, but it's also where Saddam Hussein gassed the Kurds. And he did that through Chemical Ali. So we went up there and we ferried diplomats and different agency organizations to different villages and mass graves and all these things, collecting evidence so that they could be used in the actual trial for Chemical Ali. So that felt good. That was one of the good things we did, for sure. I was in the ground offensive in 2003 with the Air Force. That's kind of where my military career started, and everybody was happy that we were there. By the time I got back in 2004, there were still a lot of people that were, the locals, that were happy that we were in the country. And then as I went through the process of 04 into 05, you could tell that the tide was turning against the U.S. in general. So there's a story of a kid. I didn't put it in the book, but we drove past this kid early, or when I got there in 2004, and he's waving at us, and it made us feel really good. And then I would say 4 months later, we were going by another kid, similar age, and he was sitting there going, like he was shooting at us. I mean, you could tell it was starting to turn right there in that 04-05 time frame.
In your book, you write that on April 21st, 2005, 7 BLACKWATER contractors died today. This is the day I lose all compassion for Iraq. The day I realized I'm not a soldier in war. I'm a single-serve Starbucks coffee cup, useful for a time, and easily discarded with no second thought given to it. I am a soldier for hire, a soldier of fortune, a mercenary. I'm fine with that.
I think everybody kind of goes through a transition when you go over to a combat zone, where when you first get there, you are really interested in trying to help. You're trying to execute the mission. You're trying to help the people of Iraq or Afghanistan or wherever it may be. And then as time goes on, you just get more jaded and more angry. And really on April 21st of 2005 was really the day that solidified it for me that, yes, you're over here. You're not a soldier. You're not going to come home and they're not going to fly flags at half-mast for you. You work for the State Department. Nobody knows who you are. Nobody cares who you are. The State Department's going to toss you aside like they did everybody else. There was a contractor. So at that point, it was like, I'm not here for this mission anymore. I'm here for me. I'm here for the money. And a lot of people kind of take umbrage with that because they felt that it was still their patriotic duty to be a private security contractor. That was the day where I decided that it just wasn't for me anymore. I'm not a patriot. I'm absolutely a hired gun.
And so what changes in your mind when you, I mean, as far as behavior and how that's exhibited, what does that look like as far as the change in who you become and why you're there?
So it's gradual and then sudden, if that makes any sense. So you gradually get to a point where you're saying, look, we're over here, we're losing lives, we're spending all this money. These people don't really care necessarily about their country. They care more about their religious sect, or they care about their tribalism or their political party. So it starts you start getting jaded over time. And then just all of a sudden you look back and you say, look, I'm done. I'm done with this. Like, I'm done with these people. I'm done with this war. I see absolutely no positive benefit that's going to come out of this, regardless of how it turns out. Whether Iraq turned into this amazing place, which it absolutely didn't, or it turned into what it is, which is just a government that is so fraught with fraud and waste, and the people at the bottom suffer. I was just agnostic at that point. Didn't care. So take yourself back to 2003. The biggest concern that we had prior to and during the invasion is we didn't want to be seen as an occupying force. Now, look at Germany after World War II. We didn't transfer from military to diplomatic power for 20-something years. I think it was 1965. So from 44 to 65, 21 years later, we finally made that transition. We were so concerned that we were going to be seen as occupiers in the Middle East that we decided that we were going to give them sovereignty as soon as possible. That was somewhere around May of 2004, and then it switched from being a DoD, Department of Defense mission military, to a Department of State mission diplomatic. And nobody planned well enough to say, who's going to protect these diplomats? And that's where Blackwater came in.
Is there hope for Iraq?
No, absolutely not. And you have to look at the paradigm of Middle Eastern countries and their militaries. The militaries are supposed to be used as a force against the government, so when the government gets too large, you've seen it in Egypt multiple times. If the government gets too large and moves, then the military can step in and they can have a coup. Iraq government owns the military, and there's no way anything's ever going to change. So the people at the bottom are going to continue to suffer, and the people at the top are going to continue to get rich and soak it in.
You write at the end of your book, near the end, that, and I quote, "It's been 15 years since I worked for Blackwater. I made lifelong friends. Sadly, some of them have taken their lives. It's a terrible feeling knowing you were in the same spot, and their final outlet was suicide."
Yeah, so a lot of contractors are trying to take that final out right now by committing suicide. Some with families, some with children, and I've searched my soul trying to figure out why. Why is it that some people come out of it unscathed? Not necessarily unscathed, but the scars aren't nearly as deep. And why do some people think that they have to take that final step where they put a gun to their head and they shoot themselves? And I think what it comes down to is contractors never had a support system. When you came home, it was just you. And you may have had great friends, but they were spread all over the U.S. And you don't have a support system. When you come back from the military, you go back to your base with your unit, and there's a support system. And then after you get out, there's the VA. Contractors just don't have that. And a lot of them have decided that, they can't reach out. They don't want to look weak. And they don't. And it just kind of breaks my heart.
It reminds me of when you talk about, you shared with me that people care that you're a veteran, but nobody really gives a crap, was I think what you said to me. What is you think a lot of veterans feel that way?
Oh, 100%. So I think everybody is willing to help a veteran if a veteran asks for the help. What you're seeing with, I think, with veteran suicides as well as veteran employment is a lot of them are not outreaching for that help. There's a lot of, there's maybe it's ego, maybe it's hubris, or maybe it's just they don't want to be a burden on people. They've been taught how to just do stuff by themselves for so long. So yes, people will help you, but you have to reach out to them. And if you know a veteran, the easiest way to outreach to them is go get a cup of coffee. Just sit down and talk to them. And maybe they need help with their resume. Maybe they need help finding connections for jobs. They don't know what they need. And the best way to do that is to be able just to say, let's sit down, let's have a cup of coffee. And then at the end of it say, how can I help you? And don't let them say, oh no, I'm fine. Like, actually actively ask them how you can help them, or don't even ask. Say, let me look at your resume, or let me look at let me introduce you to my friend that works over here, so that maybe you can get that job, that employment, to help them find that new purpose in life.